about to get real crazy up in here, Shane. Woo! Let's do this.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. Hold on.
They say that when you first open a can of surströmming, it's one of the worst smells in the world.
Let's not do it then.
I don't want to.
Oh! You've broken the seal.
Yeah.
Oh! I don't.
Oh, God.
Does it smell?
You smell that?
I can start to smell it.
Oh
no!
It's not bad. It kind of smells like a melon.
Oh, it smells like farts now.
So gross.
Wow, this smells like a candle.
中国人比较常见的。
好，谢谢。
有没有？
皮也不脆，然后里面的馅也包得不好。
It's like soggy on the inside.
This is baby food. I'm an adult. That's baby food.
Sloppy Joe to me.
It does.
It smells like barbecue as
Low-key excited about this.
This is f***ing good.
Wait, is this a trick?
No, this is good.
Yeah, this is good.
I am a mess. And I miss Tyler.
So this week, Sophia and I are going to live like we're single. Probably hang out with my sister's dog, and my dad, and my mom. I'm gonna be out of town on business.
And I'll be at home with the cats.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel here. It's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism deep dive YouTube video topic. Today I want to do the YouTube files, the pure evil, the satisfying demise, and capitalism, cannibalization, implosion of Buzzfeed, the news, and YouTube channel files, deep dive, capitalism, true crime, worker exploitation, mental health, etc. So let's get started on this YouTube video topic.
U.S. media company Buzzfeed is shutting down its news brand BuzzFeed News, according to a memo sent to staff on Thursday, April 20. In the memo, BuzzFeed's chief executive officer Jonah Peretti says in addition to closing BuzzFeed News, they are, quote, reducing our workforce by approximately 15% across various teams. At least 180 jobs will be cut in the closure of BuzzFeed News. Mother company BuzzFeed says it would focus its news operations on HuffPost, which it acquired from Verizon Media in 2020. Peretti says a tough economic situation contributed to the decision to close BuzzFeed News, but also admits poor business decisions led to the downfall of the news site. The company says it would be offering jobs to journalists affected by the layoffs in its surviving companies.
BuzzFeed's YouTube channel, as well as their BuzzFeed News website, the mid-2010s digital news outlet that harnessed the power of social media to take the internet by storm, is shuttering. The move marks the end of a digital media upstart frenzy rooted in the late aughts that enlisted a new generation of young journalists, once threatened enriched legacy of news organizations. The outlet once inspired tremendous jealousy from the likes of CNN and New York Times network. Flush with venture and capital cash, it poached top journalists at establishment outlets, opened bureaus across the world, and touted its ability to send stories viral across the social media and web. Back then, BuzzFeed was the envy of media and its employees, the cool kids of the industry. The outlet was sewn into the fabric of pop culture. Lists and quizzes saturated social media feeds and dominated the internet and headlines with their YouTube videos. They would go viral and dominated the internet. They were once the first people on YouTube scene as well, and they took advantage of that. The endless listicles and outrageous clickbait headlines is reported to have fallen into financial ruin and difficulties. Nothing has been going as planned for the BuzzFeed CEO, Jonah Peretti, in the last while, as indicated by his company's tanking stock price. They might actually have to file for bankruptcy soon enough. A decline in traffic to the website seems to be caused by a drop in referrals from feeder sites, sites that are already on the decline. These sites are already on decline, such as Facebook. Facebook's already on decline as well. This was itself caused by a switch to its users watching and sharing more videos on sharing sites like TikTok and YouTube. Less traffic means less revenue, and less revenue meant the closure of BuzzFeed's news operation itself, a huge loss leader to give the site extra credibility. As a result, loss of jobs for its journalists. BuzzFeed pioneered the use of viral video content and helped legitimize the practice as a form of journalism. The company's early successes, roughly a period between 2012, when it launched BuzzFeed News, and early 2019, when it started laying off its own employees, inspired many other media companies to create viral content of their own. BuzzFeed's decline has been attributed to a variety of factors. I would call it capitalism cannibalization.
That would often put me in a little bit of a sticky situation because I didn't want to speak for other people or what they had created. The only thing that I could speak for was Ladylike. So the lack of transparency between BuzzFeed and you guys kind of made me both not able to take credit for the work that I did, but also made me overly accountable for decisions that were made in other parts of the company that I had nothing to do with. There were also issues with transparency within the company. Over the 15 months I worked on Ladylike, we could never really get a clear answer from higher ups as to where they saw the show going or what they thought the future of Ladylike was. We didn't have a lot of meetings with higher ups. In fact, most of what we heard was through the grapevine, but we did have one meeting, which was pretty confusing. A lot of it was about changing the direction of the show, but maybe making the format stricter, but then also maybe abandoning the format altogether. All in all, it was pretty confusing. And this lack of transparency in particular leads me to my next point and the next reason I wanted to leave, which is that I wanted more responsibility. So when Ladylike first started out, it wasn't exactly the darling of BuzzFeed. The first episode had some support because it was supposed to be a new show on the Top Knot Facebook page, which at the time was about beauty and style. But then Top Knot was changed to be solely about hair tutorials, so after the first episode, Ladylike didn't have a place there. We were told that we were allowed to keep making Ladylike, but it wasn't really a part of BuzzFeed's big picture plans. So Freddie and I kept making Ladylike episodes because we really thought that there was something there. And there were actually other people at BuzzFeed who really believed in Ladylike too and stepped in to help out, and we really all wanted to work on it and prove it. So over the next couple months, Ladylike began to gain momentum and was actually able to become a real team at BuzzFeed, which meant that we got more resources and we got a couple more producers put on the project full time, which was awesome and exactly what we wanted because it was finally becoming a thing. But as time went on, it felt like big picture strategizing and responsibilities were taken away from us. We were still expected to come up with the ideas for Ladylike episodes and produce a majority of them, but Freddie and I were not included in any high-level conversations about Ladylike. What I mean by that is like conversations about possible collaborations, partnerships, what's going to be on our Facebook page and our playlist, and things as small as like the branding, like what font we're going to be using. And that was pretty frustrating to me. And when I expressed my frustration and my desire to be included in those kinds of meetings, the answer was, this is how things are, this is the way the company works, and that's not your role. And that made me have to step back and realize that my job was video producer, and they were right, and that I was never going to be able to get the kind of responsibility that I wanted at BuzzFeed. Another thing was this awkward dynamic where my name and my face were really associated with BuzzFeed and with Ladylike, but I didn't own any part of Ladylike, and I also wasn't included in any of the higher level strategy conversations about the show itself. So my real name and my face were associated with something that I had no ownership over. This kind of got into a sticky situation when the idea of creating merchandise with our names on it came up, because to me it felt like we were getting close to BuzzFeed being able to sell something under my name, which is not really what I signed up for. So when you agree to work at BuzzFeed, you know that you're not going to be owning the content that you make for them. I actually think that that's pretty common practice with companies like BuzzFeed and also in the entertainment world in general, especially early in people's careers. If you make a show and sell that show to a studio, the studio will own that show. Although in most cases, even if a company or a studio owns it, you still get credited, which is something that BuzzFeed doesn't do. But you make a trade-off when you work for BuzzFeed. You give them content and they give you resources. It's a job and it pays the bills. I have no question that making Ladylike on such a big platform was an amazing opportunity, and I learned so much at BuzzFeed, and I'm so thankful for all the opportunities they gave me and everything that I learned there. But I think there is a difference between them owning the content that I made for them, which is what I signed up for when I started working there, and them owning my name, which is a line that we didn't cross, but I think that we were approaching. And that's another reason why I left. I think in general, my goals and the company's goals just didn't align anymore. And I know to some of you guys, it might have seemed like an abrupt decision, but for me, I made this decision over time and it just felt like the right time to leave. For some people who work at BuzzFeed, having their own YouTube channel is not something that they're interested in. But for me, it's something I've been interested in for a really long time. And so that's what I did. I left BuzzFeed at the end of January, and since then I've been focusing 100% of my energy into posting videos on this channel. I just want to say I have no hard feelings towards BuzzFeed or towards anyone who works for BuzzFeed. I've been really loving being able to make my own videos and being able to connect with you guys more. And my only sadness with all of this is that I won't be able to work with the girls on Ladylike anymore.
I would say it's one of the biggest factors was them putting quantity over quality when it came to the YouTube videos on their channel. The same old shit, you know, recycled videos pumped out over and over again and putting profits over lives, thinking their creators, you know, that left, you know, like the Try Guys and etc., they can just replace them. You know, they got greedy. BuzzFeed employees left for various reasons, often citing a desire for greater creative control and ownership of their own work, and a lot of YouTube creators and social media content creators had claimed that they really couldn't make their own videos and how BuzzFeed wanted to profit off of all their ideas. Many former employees expressed frustration with BuzzFeed's ownership of their creative work and their inability to pursue personal projects outside the company. BuzzFeed was exploiting them for their video idea content. BuzzFeed didn't want them to flourish on their own. They took advantage of their employees' ideas, you know? Many also mentioned feeling burned out from the pressure of producing high volumes of viral content. Once again, quality over quantity. Quantity over quality of videos, putting them the same old content, would make creators lose their passion and burn out, which is never good for their mental health. Capitalism takes a major toll on mental health as well. Some employees also mentioned they left because they felt they were not being properly compensated for their work. Once again, capitalism companies only care about profits and pretty much nothing else. And exploiting employees and paying them the lowest amount is the normal in every single capitalism industry. Additionally, the series of Why I Left BuzzFeed videos on YouTube highlight concerns about the company's politics, like those prohibiting outside projects, the criticisms of its corporate culture. Capitalism ruins everything. BuzzFeed is a prime example of it. They got seriously greedy and paid the price for it in the end. You can see this trend with other, capitalism companies who used to be popular, such as Wet Seal, the clothing store company, fast fashion company. They made bad decisions, which ended up in a serious racial discrimination lawsuit, and then they went bankrupt. You see Pinterest, a social media platform app, using artificial intelligence, AI, banning thousands of users for absolutely no reason when they didn't do anything wrong. The website imploding because of the bad decisions on Pinterest, etc. In the latest entry in Why I Left BuzzFeed genre, former social media strategist Kansas Lowry explained the reasons for her departure in a YouTube video posted. "I don't want my identity to solely be BuzzFeed," she said. "I want to be able to create this own path, to be able to collaborate with anyone, everywhere, and have creative freedom overall." Lowry worked at BuzzFeed for 2.5 years before joining PopSugar a year ago, the first time she'd quit a job. The overarching reason why I left BuzzFeed is to have independence. Stefia Ningard, a former YouTube producer at the company, said in a YouTube video with more than 8.6 million views, she quit in January 2017 after less than 2 years, saying that one of the main things that bothered her was BuzzFeed's flat that staffers were not allowed to interact with viewers in the YouTube comment section. She also complained that she felt like producers lacked clear direction from BuzzFeed management, and she was excluded from decision-making process about the show she had co-created, Ladylike. In general, I think my goals and the company's goals just didn't align anymore. For Chris Ranner, who said he made more than 4 hours of video content during his stint at BuzzFeed, the primary problem was the mind-numbing requirement to be jack of all trades, writing, shooting, acting, and producing short-form videos. Mainly, I started thinking if I wasn't multitasking all the time, maybe I'd be able to make some better content, he said in his Why I Left BuzzFeed video on YouTube. Meanwhile, concerns over BuzzFeed ownership of their work were what prompted Allison Raskin and Gabby Dunn, the comedy duo behind the YouTube channel Just Between Us, to leave BuzzFeed in 2015. The fact that BuzzFeed owns all the intellectual property its creators produce began to scare me, Dunn said. Do I give them my best ideas? Later in life, I may want to use those ideas for something else, but I won't be able to. Once again, capitalism companies exploiting employees and taking their ideas will cause, people to lose, their passion. They'll lose their passion. BuzzFeed planning to slash its workforce by 5%, generating pre-tax savings of roughly $4 million. The company, which notes it'll also face reconstruction fees ranging from $1.8 million to $2 million as part of job cuts. The Huffington Post hasn't performed well for BuzzFeed, which brought the publication in 2020. Since then, it's announced several job cuts at the company. Another major change to the publication came last month when editor-in-chief Danielle Benton resigned, as about 30 jobs were eliminated. Jobs that were lost were BuzzFeed News eliminated its entire national desk, national security team, along with reporters covering entertainment, health, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer plus issues, including those covering celebrities, news, and pop culture. More are expected. Chief Executive Jonah Perotti says in a company-wide email, BuzzFeed can no longer continue to fund BuzzFeed News. BuzzFeed is shutting down what remains of the award-winning news department, signaling the end of an era. Other similar online news websites, including Vox and Vice, that boomed during the 2010s, has also struggled as audiences and advertisers moved away from social media and towards video services such as YouTube and TikTok. BuzzFeed on YouTube, despite having millions of subscribers, continues to achieve significant view counts on newer videos nowadays. This suggests a disconnect between the number of subscribers and actual viewership, indicating a potential loss of engagement. Instead of trying to revamp their YouTube channel, they just continue to pump out and put out the same videos they did back in 2016, trying to go viral when it's not working. Once again, quantity over quality. The term cannibalization applied to capitalism refers to the idea that the system, in its relentless pursuit of profits, ultimately destroys itself from the inside out and the very foundations upon which it was built.